Hello, Pontus. Good to see you. Shall it just be the two of us, or shall we have a third? In fact, we have a lot of fans of Angelina Jordan about, but we also today have a super fan. Let's welcome Andy Schnell. So, Andy, when and how did you discover Angelina Jordan?
I think it was late February, maybe early March of last year, 2020. I was on YouTube and watching some music videos, and the recommendation list, I saw the thumbnail of this beautiful young girl with big red flowers in her hair singing What a Difference a Day Makes. And so I clicked on it, and yeah, I'm still picking my jaw up off the floor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That started my journey. I wasn't even aware that there were comments under a video because I would just go from one video to the next and not scroll down the page. Once I learned of Angelina and started watching more of her videos just by searching her name, I would just watch the videos and enjoy them and get to experience more and more of her performances, but still not understanding that there was a wealth of information hiding just below the video in the comments. And I must say that those first couple months of watching Angelina videos was quite an experience. In fact, a large percentage of the time, my brain would hurt, actually, because I really think that my brain was so confused that such a mature voice was coming from such a young girl. Although I kept watching because the quality of the music was so superior. It was just blowing me away. And then once I did find that there were comments under the video, and this whole new world opened up with all this wonderful information about this young girl. And then it took even a couple more months before I found out about reaction videos.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, nowadays you're a frequent commentator on the videos, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. And I would say even more so once I did learn of the reaction videos. And I have to thank all the other angels who have firsthand knowledge, much more time as an angel, to not be shy about telling me that I said something that wasn't correct in one of my comments. They were always very good about making sure that we get the information correct, and I thank each and every one of them for that. I'm a newcomer. I'm late to the party, like the two of you, and we just fascinated, and we want to learn more. And the more you learn with Angelina, it's the more you want to know. It's a never-ending quest.
I'm pretty much the same as you. I discovered her about 18 months ago. And my first reaction was, what am I listening to? This does not fit into any category of what I've heard or what I've experienced before. And after hearing her many times with many different songs, I still had the same reaction. This is a new category of experience for me, and I'm in uncharted territory. And it resulted in a YouTube channel.
For me personally, she's the most emotional vocalist that I've ever experienced. My experience of my brain hurting from listening to her, and actually that came to an end when I finally got around to buying a pair of headphones and stopped watching the videos and just listened. And that relieved the little bit of mild pain that my brain was giving me, and brought up the listening experience to another level, and I began to really feel that emotional connection much more so because I've just been a very analytical, scientific type of person, and not very emotional through my mature years. Angelina, it took a while, but she broke that emotional barrier down, and it really climaxed with when Million Miles debuted. And I had gone through in the previous 3+ years of losing four family members and a close friend, and never really properly grieved those losses. Rather just dealing with the situation and everything that goes along with those situations and looking out for other people was always my main priority, and I never really allowed myself that ability to just break down and cry and feel better for it. and Angelina allowed that, and certainly has gotten me in a much better place.
What you're describing is actually very similar to what I've experienced, because in the last 12 months, since I've been listening to Angelina very regularly, I have been much more aware of my emotions. They're much more on the surface, and my emotions are softer, and I'm more fluent with them. I have a completely different relationship with my emotions, and I especially think, people who are either scientific or analytical, or who live in their head and their emotions are maybe muted or a little bit obscured. She has a way of highlighting the emotions, which actually makes us more balanced and makes us better people.
I agree, and I think there's also the physical aspect of it. In recent doctor visits, the doctor said, my blood work's never been as good.
I was thinking about one aspect I sort of recently picked up on a couple of reaction videos is that people have the tendency to want to sing along when they're listening to Angelina because she's so good. And there was one fellow. He's quite new to the reaction video scene when it comes to Angelina, and he said, "Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I had to sing along, and this is what she's done to me now, and I know I sound terrible." So he was really sort of sorry that he was, and I felt that too when I do my walk. I walk in the morning, do a little bit of a 45 minutes walk in early in the morning, and I listen to her on my headphones while walking. And some of I mean, at that early hour, it's only the people walking their dogs that are out. And some of them look at me funny, and that is because I tend to sing along quite unconsciously. So I get some funny looks there. Yeah. She really makes you want to be able to sing because it sounds so great.
I was just like you at my previous home. I just recently moved to Ohio from Connecticut. Would take a morning walk to go get a cup of coffee, and I had a Bluetooth speaker and my phone, and often would either play Sirius radio or Angelina videos off of YouTube and play them over my Bluetooth speaker, and so people could hear what I was listening to. I'm not one for wearing headphones or having earbuds in while I was walking. I'd much rather be able to listen to my environment along with the music. And it was a great way for me to introduce Angelina to a lot of people, because I wouldn't even have to say anything. People just walking by, and it was like, who is that? In the days of a pandemic, people weren't very comfortable with having a long conversation, and that's what led me to writing her biography, which I could print out and I could hand to people and say, here, please read on this artist, and I hope you enjoy her.
Wow.
Maybe that's a very good tactic for promoting her. Maybe we should have 10 or 20 people in every state permanently walking the streets with Angelina Jordan playing loudly, so that the general public could be exposed to her. That would work very well. That's what they do with electioneering. They have a megaphone on the car, and then people can stop you, and we can have like little cells in every country. The Angelina Jordan public microphone group.
It was funny. I think it happened most often with Angelina's cover of Rehab and playing that on the Bluetooth, and people walking by go, "Oh, I love Amy Winehouse. Ought to pay attention to the lyrics here." And they're like, "Oh, we're not talking about Rehab. We're talking about School. That's a 12-year-old." They're like, "What?" It's a great way to introduce her, and at the same time meet some of your neighbors.
Maybe you should walk around with a public speaker as well as a video outlet as you're walking, so you can actually show people the video as you're walking along.
In my early days, I was a bit over the top and probably drove some people away from Angelina because, as you said on a recent podcast, if you tell somebody this is the best thing ever, they're probably likely to to disregard your statement than to try and validate your statement. It's far better to just give an introduction to somebody like Angelina and let people discover her for themselves.
I mean, it's been very interesting because my sister and I've had some close friends. I've introduced Angelina Jordan, and the first one or two said, "Yeah, it's all right. You know, it's okay." And then they'll hear a third and fourth one and say, "Yeah, I can sort of see why you like it." And then there will be one which opens the floodgates, and they will say, "Wow, I can understand what you're talking about now." So it's just a matter of like finding the every person has their own Achilles heel in terms of Angelina Jordan, where the dam bursts open. The diversity of Angelina Jordan is one of her outstanding features. I'll tell you a story which might make you smile. Um, I had some friends and they were vegetarian and they had a cat, and the cat was also vegetarian. And one day they gave the cat sardines, and the cat ate the sardines like it had never eaten before. And for some people, discovering Angelina Jordan is like the cat eating sardines for the first time.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. I like that. I like that very much. And along comes Angelina and immediate connection. Even though it took me months to really, for her to break down that emotional barrier, I just kept watching more and more because I was enthralled. I was intrigued, and how is this possible?
The same thing happened to me because before I came across Angelina Jordan, music for me was like a very contained area in my life. I would listen to music and it would have a certain place, but a certain small place, and it never really went beyond the boundaries of that small place. But then when I discovered Angelina Jordan, that little place then was subject to a small nuclear explosion. And my whole consciousness then had the best type of radioactivity as a result of listening to Angelina Jordan. So it completely changed my relationship to how I experience music, but also how I react to things. And it really, when Pontus and I originally were talking about the theme of the podcast, it's how we react to Angelina Jordan emotionally and how it makes us a better person. And this is a theme that comes over again and again in conversations and with guests, and many people have this experience, and it's really, really so many different angles to try and amplify this and talk about this.
Angelina's music has allowed me to really be more fully in touch with the emotional side of that optimism, and I like to do my best to spread that optimism, and I think that's really where the connection is with my comments that people have read, is because again it's thanks to the angels who have that firsthand knowledge and their willingness to share that knowledge with us other angels. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a terrific fan base.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating time to be witnessing this sort of growth that she is, this path of her career that is going to take off. I mean, it's I'm so glad that I discovered her. It was about the same time that you did, Alan, like 18 months or so ago, and it's
yeah, we're all in that same general area of discovering her in early 2020.
Yeah, exactly. I started with Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like you, Andy, just blown away from the very start, and just went digging for more videos of her, and so it was yeah. But I find it interesting that not all people are the same. I mean, some people are, like you described, Alan, like slow starters. They find her, oh, she's all right, and then it takes a couple of videos or songs to really sort of hit home.
But people who are undecided, all I simply do is I forward them Rusty's list of all 150 of her songs and say, okay, pick a song that you really like and then hear Angelina Jordan's version. Because that's a very good way of having instant conversion.
That is a very good approach. there was a reaction video I watched earlier today, and the reactor is a young fellow, and he was asking, "Is there another Angelina out there? Is there ever been, or is there now somebody to compare her to?" I asked that question quite a bit in the early days of leaving comments on reaction videos, and people would make certain suggestions. Well, Michael Jackson or Brenda Lee, and you look and you compare, what each artist did at a given age. So far, to my knowledge, there's nobody to compare Angelina to. She's her accomplishments, by her teen years, are just remarkable.
I make video after video exactly on that basis. I don't have to say, listen to how wonderful Angelina Jordan is. I can just present the evidence objectively. Well, let's listen to these 8 different versions, then we'll hear Angelina Jordan. And although I don't say it, what I'm implying is, and then you can make up your own minds as to the relative quality of what we've just heard. Because if you allow people to make up their own minds, then it's much better than if you tell them how they should be reacting.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw one reaction video where this fellow, he said he went through the different styles and singing capabilities of Angelina, and he said in this video, I think she sounds a bit like Amy Winehouse. What do you think? This song, she sounds a little bit like Dinah Washington, and here she sounds a little bit like Ella Fitzgerald. Here she sounds a little bit like Elvis. And then you sort of thinking,
right? Isn't that remarkable?
These all-time greats, they could sound like themselves, but they couldn't sound like somebody else. So it's really remarkable. Yeah.
I know someone who's not a very big Frank Sinatra fan, and his biggest criticism is Frank Sinatra. Every single version that he does is absolutely so predictable. Whereas Angelina Jordan, she continues to surprise us really almost with every word. And that element of surprise is what keeps it all so fresh and why we react emotionally.
Yes, a very good point. She surprises you almost with every note. It's truly remarkable. What else is remarkable is for her to be born into such a beautiful, loving, caring family that also really was so worldly, and willing to travel the globe with very young Angelina and expose her to so many different countries and cultures, and at the same time other artists.
I mean, can you imagine when you were 8 or 9 years old having a talent or speciality and turning to your parents and say, let's all move to California because I think that's what we need to do. And then your family goes along with that. So many factors involved. It has to do with the enlightenment of her family, but it also has to do with their recognition of her talent. It's great that the 3 of us can be sitting here talking about the recognition of her talent, because there's so many reaction videos, but there are also so many professional vocal coaches who say, oh yes, listen to the range of how many octaves she does and listen to the raspiness of her voice. But in a way, the technical side is not really what Angelina Jordan is about. She uses that as a vehicle, but it's the impact of what she does. It is the je ne sais quoi, as we say in French. It is the mystery that we cannot really put into words. Everyone who knows her, the more they know her, the more they admire her family and the decisions that her family have made. In your profession, Andy, it's like if you have a racehorse that's too young, you wait until the racehorse is a certain age before you put it in the big race. And this is exactly what the family are doing. And this is what the Venus and Serena Williams' father did. He held them back. He didn't put them in tournaments until they were physically mature. And then he allowed them to dominate the world.
By all means, when you have something so very special, be patient, allow it to mature so that it has much better chance of succeeding in the long run.
Without changing the subject, there used to be maybe 150 years ago, there used to be very young children, 6, 7 years old, who were chimney sweeps, who would work long hours going up a chimney and working physically hard, sometimes even down in coal mines. And then we had child labor laws come in, not only because the children should be in school, but the energy that they were spending either in mines or cleaning out chimneys, that energy they should be using for growing. And a lot of kids 100 years ago, 150, were nowhere near as tall as today because they had too much physical work at too young an age and their physical growth was compromised. So it's actually the same principle. And in a way, this is what Angelina Jordan's family is doing. It's to her credit that she is 6 foot tall. The fact that she has not been on a tiring tour has allowed her body to fully grow. So she has that physical reserve for the entire rest of her life. This is really a wise choice by her family.
It could come a long ways from when Angelina was 8. I love seeing that there's a short video of Uncle Michael carrying Angelina to one of her outdoor concerts, and I always thought to myself, it's probably the only time in history that the star vocalist was transported to her concert in such a manner.
I think this is the first time that she's been sort of compared with a thoroughbred horse, isn't it?
Well, she's without a handicap.
I asked if she's still maintaining a diary. I'd be interested to know what the two of you posed as a question for Angelina.
Well, I actually posed a very complicated question. I asked her about the creative process. Mozart would hear the entire symphony in his head. He would just sit down and write it out. And did she do that? Was she able to hear the entire performance and then sit down and just it was all there? Or does she have hours and hours in order to produce it? Or does she just hear the guitar and step up to the microphone and do it all spontaneously? So I'm absolutely fascinated by the creative process of what she goes through. And I would love to know the answer to that.
I'm so interested in her describing the world that she goes into and she's singing. My question will be something along the lines of, is that world constant? Is that world the same now as it was when you first entered that world when you were like 10 or 12 or even younger? Or is it something that sort of is evolving?
That's a great question. That question is definitely on my radar. The other question I would love to ask her, and I think this is the most important question I could ask her, is I think she was 8 or 9 years old when she said that she wants to bring love to the world through her music. And I will ask her, is that always in your mind whenever you arrange a song or you sing a song? And how do you marry your technique with that concept? Balance, which is remarkable and wonderful. And sometimes the balance is a little bit tricky, and sometimes people have to grow into something. For example, I'm a better balanced person because I have more of an emotional rainbow in the last 12 months through my hearing Angelina Jordan. And so in a way, that's made me a better balanced person. Andy, thank you for taking the time to talk us through the world of Angelina Jordan. It's always a treat for us to have a guest, and it's always wonderful to have a rich, meandering conversation, which is completely spontaneous and unplanned.
Well, thank you so much. Very much honored to have been invited, because there are so many other angels out there that are far more deserving than I. And I hope that the two of you will interview some of them, the ones who are willing to be interviewed. And again, I thank them for educating me about Angelina.
Thank you, Andy.